From a night cleaner at McDonald's to 6 months later playing on million-dollar stake tables in Monte Carlo, only to be blacklisted from all the casinos in Las Vegas at the age of 27. He set his mathematical mind on what was thought to be impossible, to beat the game of horse betting. He almost got bankrupt in his first attempt and got ditched by his business partner. He didn't give up. He returned to Atlantic City disguised to make a final hit on blackjack before returning to Hong Kong for some unfinished business. This is the story of a man that won the biggest cash pool prize in horse betting history to that date, roughly equal to $20 million, and didn't bother collecting it. This is Bill Benta, the man that made $1 billion on horse betting. Today we will analyze how Bill Benta used financial principles to do the impossible, and what you can learn from it to improve your investment strategy. Welcome to Financial Interest, where you will learn everything you need to know about money and investing. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Benta was a diligent student all his life, and his natural talent in mathematics has led him to study physics in college. During his college years, he came across a book called Beat the Dealer by Edward Thorp. Thorp has been accredited for inventing the system known as card counting, which is considered to be the most efficient strategy to beat the house in blackjack. He got so hooked to the concept of card counting to the extent that at the age of 22, he put his faith to the test and quit school, got on a Greyhound bus, and went to play cards in Las Vegas. Inspired by Thorp's book, he started spending more time in budget casinos practicing his card counting skills. Soon after getting a job as a night cleaner at McDonald's, his friend introduced him to Alan Woods, the leader of a professional Australian card counting team. Benta was aware of the risks involved with card counting and the difficulty to scale his earnings alone without drawing attention. But the incredible story about Woods of how he got passed through airport security in Manila with $10,000 stashed in his underwear was enough to convince him to join his team. Within 6 weeks, he found himself playing blackjack in Monte Carlo, served by waiters in dinner jackets. Benta felt like James Bond, and his earnings grew to the rate of $80,000 a year, equivalent to $250,000 today. At this point, the young man abandoned the idea of returning to college fully. But the good days didn't last long. 4 years later, everything took a turn. In 1984, Bill Benta was picked up from the table by security guards, who took him to the back of the casino and intimidated him. Soon after, Benta and Woods got blacklisted by all casinos in Las Vegas. They needed to find a new game. Curiously looking for a new game to put their mathematical minds on another test, Woods came across horse betting, which until that point, no one had ever successfully found an edge against the house. Horse betting is huge in Asia, especially in Hong Kong. At the time, the city population was about 5.5 million, yet the amount they were betting on horses accounted for $10 billion annually. Even though horse racing is a very unpredictable sport with thousands of variables that can change the outcome, Benta believed with enough data and the right model, it's beatable. After spending months analyzing advanced horse racing statistics, academic papers, and betting systems, he came across a study which argued that a horse's winning success is based on the results of factors that can be quantified with probabilities. These included factors such as straight line speed, size, winning record, and the jockey's skill. Weighing in these factors will give a prediction of a horse's real chance of winning. Adding more variables and finer weightings will improve the accuracy of the forecast. Since they were mostly interested in statistical models, the writers of the paper didn't test the strategy in the real world. However, they concluded with saying, there appears to be room for some optimism. After reading this countless times, Benta started studying statistics and used them to develop his complex software. At the same time, Woods flew to Hong Kong and sent him yearbooks containing the results of thousands of races. They hired 2 women to insert the results into a database, so he could spend the next 9 months to develop his code and study the regression. In 1985, Bill Benta flew to Hong Kong with 3 IBM computers in his luggage. In the beginning, Benta's algorithm would give some strange predictions, so twice a week they were studying the race tapes to examine the horse's forms, which helped them improve the software's accuracy. To simplify the strategy, imagine that the gambling public can bet on a given horse at a payout of 4-1. Benta's model might show that the horse is more likely to win than those odds suggested, let's say at a chance of 3-1. This meant that Benta could put less at risk and get the same return. A seemingly small edge could turn into big profit, and the impact of bad luck can be diminished by betting thousands and thousands of times. The math was clear. They had successfully found an edge in horse betting. Bente's model, applied to scale, made possible by computer modeling, seemed to be a guaranteed success. At least, that's what they thought. But what seemed to be working on the computer didn't work in real life. This has led to Bente losing $120,000 in his first year, and started a dispute between Bente and Woods, which in return ended their business relationship for good. Bente had no more money left, and he needed more time to perfect his software. He decided it was time to go back to card counting, but this time in Atlantic City. He assembled his team, and together they earned thousands of dollars in just 2 years. His little side business allowed the math genius to develop his horse racing model even further. He was determined not to give up, and soon was set to do the impossible. Despite having researched all the mathematical and financial models and studied thousands of horse races, what had gone wrong? There were two main reasons. First of all, the sizing of his positions was incorrect due to a number of factors, which ultimately led him to financial ruin the first time. And secondly, his mathematical model was incomplete. It was missing a very important variable called insider trading, which is pretty common in horse racing. One of the very important questions every investor needs to answer before investing is, how much of his total wealth should be allocated to each investment? This question was even more important for Bente, as his strategy heavily relied on the law of large numbers. In other words, a small mathematical edge repeated numerous times will result in a guaranteed profit. But there is still an important risk. Even in a simple coin flip with equal chances of getting heads and tails, when it's repeated hundreds and thousands of times, the number of heads and tails will be even. However, during those thousands of flips, there will be times where either heads or tails will come repeatedly over and over again. You can see this as repeated losses in any given trading strategy. Despite the correct financial modeling and proven edge, if the allocation per trade is not correct, you will face the risk of ruin. The risk of ruin in gambling or investing is broadly summarized as the probability of an individual losing a substantial amount of money to the point where it's no longer possible to recover the losses or continue. If the ticket size is too small, the portfolio will lose out on the growth potential. Too large and a few unlucky outcomes, as mentioned earlier, could depress it beyond recovery or wipe it out altogether. To find the answer to his problem, Bente used the Kelly formula to determine the correct allocation to each one of his trades, in order to maximize the portfolio's long-term growth potential. The Kelly formula is commonly used among traders and investors, like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. To find out more about the difference between trading and investing, check out our previous video. Now, the Kelly formula helps investors and gamblers calculate what percentage of their money they should be allocating to each investment or bet. The outcome of the formula is very sensitive to the ratio of how much is expected to be won to the amount that is expected to be lost. In other words, the odds. In trading, as well as in any mathematical betting model, this ratio could be estimated. However, even a small estimation error produces a very large performance difference. Therefore, the Kelly formula is a good starting point, but it may require an adjustment to optimize the ticket size. This adjustment will depend on the nature of the traded instrument, more specifically the risk-reward ratio, as well as the number of trades that is expected to be made in a year. The smaller the risk-reward ratio and less trading activity to be made, the smaller of an adjustment you would need to make to the Kelly formula. In the case of horse betting, the outcome is binary. If you win a multiple of your initial capital, and if you lose it all. Because of the binary nature of his trade and the large number of bets he was making in a year, we're speaking in thousands, betting the full amount recommended by the Kelly formula resulted in Bente going initially bust. And he found the optimal allocation for him to be a fraction of what the formula produced, such as a half or a third. By reducing his trade size by a third, he managed to reduce his risk of going bust by roughly 20 times. Now, apart from the win-to-loss ratio and the number of expected trades to be made in a year, there are two other important aspects of why the full Kelly amount didn't work for him. They were paying expenses as well as making occasional withdrawals from the total capital, which fictitiously increased the risk per trade, as the total investable capital shrunk by each withdrawal. Secondly, despite the Kelly formula does somewhat give an optimal allocation, using the Kelly formula can be a rough ride. During downswings, it's common where more than 50% of the total capital can be lost. Coming to the second reason of his initial failure. He eventually found out that there's a lot of insider information within the horse betting market, which he had no access to. And since his model was built only on publicly available information, it was missing a very important variable. Insider knowledge is basically critical information such as trainers and jockeys' intentions, secret workouts, or the horse's meal plan. This type of information will only be available to certain parties, who will by no doubt take advantage of it. Hong Kong racing uses a totalizer system. Unlike the odds in Vegas sportsbooks, which are set in advance and give a decisive edge to the house, in the totalizer system, the odds are updated fluidly, in proportion of how the bettors wager. This basically means that if the odds for a horse to win is 3-1 and someone comes and bets a very large amount on that horse, the house would adjust the odds down to, let's say, 2.5-1. Desperately thinking for a way of how to overcome this massive obstacle, Bente eventually figured it out. He realized that if he can't get insider knowledge, he could at least incorporate it into his model. But didn't we just say that Bente had no access to insider information? How could he then incorporate it into his model? This was certainly not an easy task, but as it turned out, also not impossible. The fact that the public price estimate is better than the one of his model doesn't mean that his model had no merit. While it's true that the public has more insight than his model, perhaps his model has different insights, which the public didn't have. His original strategy was comparing the model-generated odds to the public odds. He realized that if he used the public odds as a starting point and refined them with his model outputs, he would essentially incorporate insider information into his strategy, as the public odds were updated fluidly and included insider knowledge. This had changed his model's performance significantly. He considers this change to be the single most important innovation in his success. 2 years after his failure in 1988, he has returned to Hong Kong. From that point on, the rest was history. In his first year, he made $600,000. He continued the operation for 13 years and only had one down year, with collective winnings nearing $1 billion. At its peak, the operation grew to a similar scale of a professional hedge fund with 20 employees. And towards the end, the initial model that was tracking 8 variables was tracking more than 120 of them per horse. Now, despite the important financial lessons in this story, there are 3 important character attributes of Bente that led him to success. First of all, his main focus was never to make money. The famous gambler is on record for saying, "My only real interest has been to beat the system and come out ahead." When you're only concentrating on making money, it's easy to lose sight, and it will lead you to make mistakes. Instead, he focused on a problem he badly wanted to solve. And in the pursuit of that, he was rewarded rigorously. The second biggest differentiator was the fact that he never stopped improving. Even after he solved the 2 most important problems in his model, he continuously worked on ways on how to get better and improve the model. As we're living in an ever-changing world, the only way to stay ahead is to continuously improve and innovate. This is a common mistake people miss in finance. We see this time and time again in the hedge fund space, where rockstar traders from the 90s and early 2000s closing down their shops because of a lack of understanding of the current market dynamics. And lastly, Bente never accepted defeat. Any form of success is not a straight line, especially one at this scale. There will always be some ups as well as downs, and Bente experienced a fair share of his. From going bankrupt to getting ditched by his business partner, the journey was definitely not an easy one. But rather than getting disappointed by adversity, he got further motivated to work harder and ultimately to do what was thought to be impossible. This was the story of Bill Bente, the shy man that hardly ever appeared on TV or interviews, that broke horse betting with his passion and gift for mathematics. If you made it this far, I hope you enjoyed the story and learned something interesting today. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe if you already haven't done so, and give it a big like. And I'll see you next week.